everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to dye some silk and silk blend yarns, all in the same dye bath to see if we observe anything from it. It's not going to be the most controlled experiment, but I thought it would be a lot of fun to look at some 100% silk next to a 20% silk, 80% superwash merino wool, and a 50-50 silk superwash merino wool. All right, we've got some 3-gram micro skeins of some 100% silk. We have our diamond that is 80% superwash merino, 20% silk. And then that's a fingering weight yarn. And then we have a DK weight 50-50 superwash merino wool, 50% silk. And our fingering weight yarn is 2-ply. This one is 3 or 4. I can't tell right now. And I don't know how many plies our threads are. I'm going to group all these micro skeins together with a zip tie so that way I can pre-soak everything overnight. Please excuse this outside phone clip. I'll try to get some better beauty shots of the yarn, but it's Sunday night. I really want to dye this yarn tomorrow, and so I want to go start pre-soaking it because sometimes silk needs a little bit more time. Now with this poor screenshot of all three, it does look to me like our diamond sock, that 20% silk, 80% merino wool, is the most like off-white yellow, whereas the more silk content we have, the more pure white the yarn or floss feels. But I'm excited to dye this up with some really pretty colors. And we have very successfully pre-soaked overnight in some plain tap water with no acid. Don't worry, I will link all of our silk blends down in the video description so that way you can go learn more about the different yarn bases. Today I really want to play with a rainbow, and I want to mix that rainbow from primary colors, a cyan, magenta, and yellow. And I want to create my perfect rainbow from that. And then I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to want to apply it onto our yarn yet. We may do something immersion. We may set up something cold and move it around. That I'm going to let marinate in my brain as we get everything set up. But first, let's go take a look at the colors and mix them up. I have already mixed 1% stock solutions of our cyan, our magenta, and our yellow. And the 3 colors are Caribbean blue, brilliant yellow, and deep magenta from the Dharma acid dye line. And a 1% stock solution means we have 1 gram of dye dissolved in 100 milliliters of liquid. So if I measure out 100 milliliters of one of the dye stocks, I know I'm going to have 1 gram of dye in there. And so my plan right now is to get 100 milliliters of each of the different colors, and then we're going to dilute it. In total, this means I am measuring out 6 grams of dye, which for the 2 projects I want them for, one of them, it would be a reasonable amount of dye. The other, it would be a bit too much dye. But again, as I said, I'm going to be using this for 2 different projects and for at least 900 grams of yarn. So the ratios that we're dealing with are all very good. And even though I showed the proportions before, here's a little bit more of a breakdown. For our red, we're using a 3-to-1 ratio of magenta to yellow, which means we have 75 milliliters of magenta and then 25 milliliters of our yellow. For orange, we're doing a 3-to-1 ratio again, but this time it's 3 parts yellow to 1 part magenta. So 75 milliliters of yellow and 25 milliliters of magenta. Yellow is the one color I am using as is, so I just measured out 100 milliliters of our yellow dye stock. Our green is 50-50 blue and yellow. 50 milliliters of blue and 50 milliliters of our yellow stock. For our blue, I wanted something that is not as turquoise as Caribbean blue. So we're using 75 milliliters of the Caribbean blue and 25 milliliters of deep magenta, which is a 3-to-1 ratio that comes up for a lot of colors in this rainbow. And then finally, our purple is also a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 parts magenta, 1 part blue, or 75 milliliters of deep magenta, and then 25 milliliters of Caribbean blue. And phew! Those are our colors all laid out. Now, to aid with the projects we're doing today, I actually want our colors to be less concentrated. So I added 300 milliliters of water to each of our samples here, bringing it from a 1% stock solution concentration, because even with mixing the colors, we still had 1 gram of dye per 100 milliliters of liquid. But now we have a 0.25% stock solution, or a 1/4 gram of dye per 100 milliliters of water. And this is just going to allow it to be easier for me to spread things out, but I'll still be able to do calculations because we still know the concentration of each of our rainbow colors. Here is our rainbow color palette. The colors are not that intense because we've diluted them, but this means that we'll be able to spread them onto the yarn as much as we want. And I think that it is just a gorgeous palette, and I am so excited to dye up our yarn. So of the 6 grams of dye I mixed up total, I used around, a little over 1/4 of that in the other project. So we definitely have over 3 grams of dye left here. My plan for the other project was to use 120 milliliters of each mixture. And so then that would mean that we have 280 milliliters. Editing Rebecca could do the math to tell me exactly how much dye we have left. But we're dyeing, a little over 300 grams of yarn because we have those, the 100% silk is so small. But I don't think I want to use all of what we have mixed here, which means we may have some leftover dyes, which also will be really exciting. But we have enough pigment so that way I have a lot of options. I could use these rainbow colors in a non-traditional, non-blended order. I could blend them even more so that way the transitions are even smoother. It's hard with the yellow, but we could mix them more and create like 12 colors. I don't know, there's so many possibilities. And yeah, if there's something that you would really like to see me do, please let me know down in the comments below, because I have more ideas than what I can achieve in one video. I'm thinking that for better or for worse, I want to try to get some coverage on our yarn, which means I think I want to start cold with no acid. And we may bring acid over at some point and not wait too long into the process. But I did note that hot with acid, these colors, and I'm sort of scrunching this, it's not going to give like the smoothest color transition, but I like things that are a little bit more random. I squeezed out gently almost all of the water. We have 200 grams of the 50-50, 100 grams of the 100 grams of the 80-20, and then we have our 100% silk, which I'm going to layer here in the middle. Now this one is a lot straighter. The odds of getting like the colors we have at the ends are a little bit more slim. And actually, I'm going to rotate this because since these zip ties are dark and have a little bit of blue, I want like the purple down at that end, and it's easier to flip the pan than it is to move the dyes around. Oh man, yeah, I think we're gonna go for it and not worry too much, at least not at first, about the volume. So once we get some amount of coverage in here, at that point we can go ahead and add acid and bring in like more color as needed and things like that. Now, a lot of times when I do rainbows, I like to start with the yellow. And that's because it's a color that gets overtaken really easily. But I'm actually going to start with our red. I'm not working things through yet. I kind of want to see how our placement goes. Okay, let's go for the yellow, like here. Because I'm concerned about having too much water volume. And so if right now I can work on getting the placement of the colors where I want it, you can see how our 100% silk is not that absorbent. not compared to the other colors. Ooh, we are seeing some breaking there. Let's see. Okay, the blue's gonna have to go a little bit closer to the green. I typically try to give yellow a lot of space because, like, as the other colors encroach in on it, then we might see, I don't know, some movement. Okay. Bringing in that purple. All right, now what I don't know is how much, if any, of these colors are striking to our yarn yet. Okay, and look at that. See, there was some movement down below because see, we see those like light greens in there. This is why we started small. And then what I can do is, even though I'm getting more colors on my hands, I can blend things in this in-between area a little bit. We will be adding acid in very soon. Now, what's interesting is that already our silk is looking a lot lighter than the corresponding wool blends that are around it. And that is just from this initial amount of color that we've added. Now, ooh, we are getting really good coverage. Okay, maybe we don't quite need acid yet. Now, here's the issue with zip ties. They can both make life better and a little harder. Now, I think my purple and red sections are going to be a little bit bigger than maybe I would have done otherwise, but that is primarily for our yarn here, because I want to make sure that we get all the colors on our 100% silk. Okay, and now I'm just going to bring over some more. I know I said I was going to bring some acid in, but I still have not. And I can bring the orange a little bit. Oh, some of that went onto our red. That is fine. That is fine. I'm increasing the volume of everything I'm adding, but then coming in. Now, the way that I'm doing this technique, it is very, very possible that our wool yarns are going to absorb more than this silk embroidery floss because of the way I have everything set up. And that just kind of is an is what it is situation. I am doing my best to treat them similarly without, I guess, having them all together in very separate dye baths, which is not what I want. I'm having so much fun. Now, again, if I was going to use all of this dye that I have measured and mixed up, then goodness, if I was going to use 100% of it, we would have definitely more than 3 grams of dye per 300. Yeah, we would have more than a 1% depth of shade total. My hesitation and concerns are purely based on the fact that I do not want this to be a pain to rinse out. Oh no. You can see what that pour did. It is what it is. It is what it is. Oh man, Caribbean blue does take longer. But, you know, I could have, again, gone for a technique with more precision, but I really just liked what was happening and wanted to create a rainbow without, you know, dyeing my house a rainbow too. Or my skin. See, what I don't want, and the concern I always have around zip ties, is that what I don't want is to, and I want to pour a little bit on there. I don't want to pour the liquid onto the zip ties too much, because then it is more likely to spread and move like we saw with the blue. Goodness, I don't know if we'll be flipping the yarn sooner rather than later. That I have not decided. What I have decided is I'm going to rinse my hands and grab some acid. That just sounds so bad. All right, I'm bringing a tablespoon onto the yellow. onto the green, this interface with the purple, and the interface with the red. Now, again, our pink strikes the fastest of all of these colors. And the blue strikes the slowest. But it's fun to like blend these colors out. And the nice thing, because the yellow goes all the way on these first 4 colors, right? It's only once we get into the blue that there is no more yellow. And because there's even yellow in our red. So by like the way I was going, I'm increasing the pigments as I go down. Oh man, this is so pretty. Oh, I love a good solid rainbow silk. Now these colors at the blue end are feeling a lot more pigmented to me. Okay, that is still feeling purple to me though. I'm seeing a lot of blue, but gosh, what do we think about trying to flip it? Ooh, okay, let's see. Oh, I think we totally can do it. But check out what's happening with the yellow on the bottom. Right? Oh no. A lot of that yellow is gone. How am I going to do this? We're going to set you over here. And without squeezing, okay, we've got more yellow here, but aha, see? This is why we're flipping it. There is an area where I would like some more blue. I'm trying to keep things similar to the way we had it, and I'll zhuzh it in a moment. But yeah, the yellow, and it's only going to get worse. A lot of the yellow has, oh no! I touched it the wrong end with the blue. That's okay. That's okay. It's going to make things more floral and bird-like. All right. We gotta shift things kind of where they're supposed to be. Okay. All right. I probably should have let it sit for a little bit before moving it. You can see that there is a lot of dye that has not sunk in yet. But we're okay. And since things are now shifted relative to one another, we're going to get more blending everywhere. But I'm adding more acid just to help me out. Because you know what? I want things to strike, but at the same time, as we bring in more yellow, I want things to be able to stay a bit. Hee. And then I can bring a little bit more orange because we're increasing our volumes of liquid, and we're going to get to a point where I would no longer feel comfortable trying to move and shift things. Now, if I wanted the most perfect result, what I probably should have done would have been to, with less blending, would have been to have everything laid flat. You see that I had a lot more control with that 100% silk that we have on top than I do the other yarns because of just how they're scrunched, and that contributes to how colors spread and move as well. Let's do some blue, but mostly focused in the spot where I feel like it needs it, because like the blue just gets so dark, which again is not like a bad thing at all, but That's why, like, the nice thing about having 2 skeins of the 50/50 is that one of them, right, we know one of them is going to be less interrupted by whatever I'm putting on top than the other. Kind of want, I'm gonna use an eyedropper to add some more purple just on there. I forgot that I have acid in here now as I go to work things through. This is so beautiful. Okay, I am going to have to let this sit, I think, for a bit, because yeah, I'm still seeing color in there. It's definitely starting to strike, but again, what I don't want is to bring it over to the heat yet, because as soon as I go to start heating this, I'm gonna need more water volume. And that is the one thing that I do not have at the moment. Now I'm trying to peek at my colors, and I feel like I've used the least amount of the yellow and the green and the most of a bunch of the other colors, which is interesting to me. I love this lime green happening right here where the colors have blended. I think it is brilliant. Okay, we are gonna breathe. We are gonna be a tad bit curious. Yeah, see, look at all that blue that is in there. And I think I'm gonna let things sit for 20 minutes. Time passed pretty quickly. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's check. Okay, I'm gonna take a paper towel on here. All right, a lot of those colors are in. There's like a hint. All right, I think, ooh, not much, let's see. Okay, less color than we had before. There was a little bit of green. Okay, and we have some blues, but it's definitely way lighter than it was before, so that is really good. Let's go ahead and very carefully move this to the stove. There's not that much liquid in here yet, so that's not what I'm worried about. I'm gonna be very careful moving the tripod. I can't zoom out far enough because we still have a lot of dye left. All right, now I have the solution that was 8 cups of water with 2 tablespoons of white vinegar that I am carefully adding to our edges. I don't want to do too much, but I did, as I turn on the heat. We are now on my gas stove across 2 burners here and here, and I'm sort of wiggling. I forgot what I was doing. I'm going to want to add more, but I'm wiggling the yarn to just kind of get a feel of how much liquid is in there and how much more I need. And so sometimes when I do this, I will focus on adding the dye at my lightest color, or the one that is the most likely to get disrupted. Because you can kind of see that even if I add it at the yellow, then it does move all around. But I don't like, when I'm on a direct heat source like this, I like there to be more liquid in the pan. I guess what I look for is if I move yarn to the side, I look for some water being present, which we don't have that much of. But I'm gonna have, I added maybe like a cup or 2 of water in here. I am going to, we see some steam coming up. I want it to heat up a little bit slowly. We don't want any spot to be too warm, but as things heat up, I will continue to add some more water, and we'll wait for everything to get hot. Ooh, there's a lot of blue. You can see right there. We'll wait for everything to get a little bit hot, and then I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. But for now, periodically just coming with a little bit more water and acid until things are just more wet. Because again, like, I mean, we're plenty wet, but we don't want to toast anything, right? And so, like, right now still, if I zhuzh the yarn, we still have a lot of yarn at the surface, which we want, but we want there to be more water at the bottom because we don't want anything to dry out. So, I'll see you in a bit. I would say we've added around 4 cups of water total. And I've moved the yarn around as needed. And so I think that we're good. And I just set a timer for 30 minutes. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, it has been 30 minutes. And yeah, the 100% silk is just feeling less pigmented to me, kind of across the board. The good news is our dye bath is looking really, really clear. Oh, that has me so relieved. I did turn off the heat. I am gonna leave the yarn in here to cool for a bit. Mainly because I don't want to disrupt things and move it around too much. And also, it's gonna be a while before I go ahead and start washing anything anyway. So we may as well just be patient and wait. I let our silk yarn finish cooling off in the pan. Let's take a look. Oh, this is so pretty. The thing I love, and maybe less so with the purple, but with the like red and purple being smaller, the size actually is going to end up being kind of similar to everything else. All right, here we have our 20% silk, which right now I would say looks very, very similar to our 50-50 silks. The 100% silk is a little lighter. Its construction is also quite different. I don't know. It's still not like a tight twist, but oh, this is so soft. Oh, this is amazing. All right, to the sink. I think one of the things I'm absolutely loving right now is the fact that when I went to go pull yarn from this video, I was like, ooh, what do I have? Ooh, I had some 50-50 silk left over. That would be fun. And I'm like, oh, but I have these, like, this embroidery floss. That would be fun. And I'm like, oh, but I have the 20%. And yeah, that's how this evolved. But the way that this video came about is that in the April 2026 Patreon poll, I always share a poll towards the beginning of the month. The ChemKnits patrons voted. This time the poll was on like the fiber content or the yarn construction people wanted to see. And silk was the winner. Silk and silk blends. So that's what we're going with here. And I had another video I wanted to dye. I wanted to do using the rainbow colors. And I was like, oh gosh, while I'm doing this, I'm going to be making so much. So when I was writing out my plan, I was like, let's do rainbow. And I'm so excited because I think a lot of times with silk, I'm more likely to go a little bit softer. And I know I've done neon on silk before, but with the sheen, I like to do something more elegant. And I'm just feeling the rainbows, man. I am so happy. And this has me so excited to do more rainbows for my Trevor Project fundraiser, which, okay, so this video will be early access for patrons in May. I'm not seeing any color come out, which is great. It will be early access for patrons in May, and then it'll be public in June. So the fundraiser is probably still ongoing, and I'll try to add it to this video before it goes public, because then I should already have the fundraiser set up. But anyway, I'm just in love, and I'm so excited to see how it looks dry. So again, the 100% silk was looking less saturated to me before anything else. The only, you know what I should have done that I didn't do? So I was so excited to dye the silk. I should have had a non-silk yarn in here for comparison's sake. Hindsight is 20/20, but I'm gonna go pop this through the spin dryer to remove a bunch of the liquid. Hindsight is 20/20, but it almost doesn't matter. Look at the color of the 50-50 versus the 20-80. Yeah, even with the reds too. The 50-50 is currently lighter than the 80-20. So we'll see what happens once more liquid is gone. And actually, here's the red on our 100% silk out of focus. So, I mean, even without having wool in here for a comparison, I think we're gonna see some major differences. And you know, it's funny because I dye the 80-20 a lot. And like in the spring mini skein mini series, this yarn is dyed alongside wools very frequently, and I often point out how it feels less pigmented in the end, but it's fun to see two different silk percentages. But anyway, I will see you when everything is dry. Sometimes when I set out to do a project, I know the results are going to be dramatic. But then there are times when I set out to do a project and I'm like, maybe it'll be dramatic, maybe it won't. And even though we definitely see a difference between the coloration on our 100% silk, our 50% silk, 50% superwash merino, and our 20% silk, 80% superwash merino, I still regret that I should have done like a 100% superwash merino instead of doing two of the 50/50s. That would have, I think, really brought it home, because I think that it would feel deeper than this. All of the yarn is stunning. I would say that we have like medium saturated. This is still pretty saturated. This is definitely on the lighter end, and this one is not quite pastel, but feels like it's approaching pastel. I would say that the difference between our 50/50 and 80/20 is a bigger difference than between the 50/50 and the 100%. But the reason why our 100% silk is not the best comparison for us today is that it seemed to have less pigment in it for the entire time. The way that we had it set up, it just always felt a little bit lighter than whatever it was resting on. But this comparison here really does drive home the point in a way that's almost better than when I dye this yarn next to 100% superwash merino wool, in that the silk content, and don't forget these colors look so similar before they dried. A silk content in your yarn means that you need more pigment for the colors to feel as saturated. And I believe this happens because silk is a lot more translucent when it is wet, and it becomes a lot more opaque once it's dry. So it can have as much pigment, and you can see that pigment when it's wet, but then as it dries out, you're not able to see as much of the pigment. That's sort of my hypothesis, at least. I forgot that I have multiple of these, so I can pull it out onto our yarn. I mean, with the 80/20 versus the 100%, you very, very much see those differences. I feel like comparing the 100% silk to the 50/50 is a little bit harder, because the purples are close. The red, there's definitely a difference here. The 100% silk feels lighter. And I also feel like in the greens, maybe, but it's definitely closer. You can tell things are significantly less saturated with every color over here with this comparison. This embroidery floss is so beautiful. I've only dyed it like a handful of times, and oh my gosh, it is just lovely. And honestly, it was really easy to add a few into the project to just do a comparison. And so if that's something you want to see me do more of, please let me know down in the comments. I now want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of the ChemKnits Fiber patrons, including Don Jans, Jessica Parco, Tamara Svanes, Bernadette Crum, and the rest of the names you see on the screen right now. By signing up on Patreon, it allows you to contribute to the content here on the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel directly, and you get some fun perks like early access to new content, like the Dyepot PS series, voting for the direction this series takes, and there's a lot of other perks depending on the level. You can find more information over at patreon.com/ChemKnits. Patrons, thank you so much. I will admit I have a bit of a stash problem. I have a big collection of maybe single skeins of a lot of different yarn bases. And a lot of times I hold on to them because I'm like, well, what if I need this for a video idea? And today is one of those days when I'm so glad I did. Like when I went to go see, I'm like, okay, what silk and silk blends do I have? And realized like, ooh, do I want to do 50/50, 80/20? And I'm like, oh my gosh, why not both? I don't think that's something I've done before. Maybe I have. I don't remember. I don't rubber. But either way, there's no problem in doing comparisons like this again, because sometimes the fiber content of the yarn you pick, even if you're dyeing things with the same recipes and same techniques, can make a big difference in the end. And I know that this is really obvious when you have yarn like a yak blend that starts out as a darker color. It's less obvious when you have yarns that all start out looking the same, but then you get very dramatic results. And the thing with this particular project was that our water volume was low enough overall that it wasn't that one yarn was absorbing more of the pigment than another. If I was using a high volume of water to do a tonal with the same amount of and having everything all in one pot, then yes, we might expect that our yarn on top with the highest percentage of wool would probably absorb a little bit more color. Maybe it would absorb the color a little bit faster. And so then I would want to control things and separate them into different pans. But in a project like this, when I'm dyeing more by feel and not measuring out all the colors, we know I treated everything in the pan pretty consistently. And there isn't a lot of movement from skein to skein. And so that is not a concern here today. But if you want me to do some more controlled experiments, doing depths of shade of like a tonal color on a bunch of different yarn bases, this is something I've done like a handful of times, but I don't think I've done it with like percentages of silk. That is something I'd be interested in exploring. I'm just gonna need to order more yarn. But anyway, please subscribe and turn on your notifications so you never miss a new video. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.